Welcome to our today. We were going to be talking about shingles. It's quite a broad topic, and we are by no means going to cover everything that's in the blog that will come out.
Or everything that we didn't put in the blog.
That's true. This is a big
it's a
topic.
long blog.
So we're gonna go over a few things. We're going to talk about what shingles is, how it affects senior citizens, how it affects people with pregnancy, children. We're going to cover the symptoms, and then we'll go over some alternative care that you could use. We'll go specifically into herbs, we'll go specifically into essential oils, and then we'll talk a little bit about homeopathy, and then just basically surviving shingles. There will be a lot more that you can read in the blog, so be sure to catch that this afternoon, especially if you ever do shingles or have done shingles. Please take a chance to share this out on your pages and share this with your friends and help us all out. It'd be great. Good morning, Kyoko. All right, should we dive right in?
I guess. What do you say? Shingles is a virus.
It's a viral infection.
Sometimes called herpes zoster, which should tell you quite a bit about it if you've studied herpes much at all. Varicella zoster virus.
That's the typical name for it, but it is often referred to as a herpes zoster.
And like all viruses, it can lie dormant in the ganglia of the nervous system for years and years, and then in a weakened immune system or a time when you're under stress or who knows why, it pops up and comes around as a round of shingles.
The varicella zoster virus is actually the one that causes chickenpox, and so there's a very close relationship to shingles and chickenpox. And the reason that's important is because when we get down farther in through this live and we're talking about the essential oils that help and the herbs that work well for shingles, and you've got a child that's doing chickenpox, a lot of the same things will be.
A lot of the same things work.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to kind of lay to rest at the moment, is that I was told when I did my own bout of shingles, not that far, is that once you do a round of shingles, you're most likely to do another one.
Yeah, that's not fun.
and actually, statistically, it's only about 6% of first-time shingle sufferers who do another one. Mm-hmm. And what I got a kick out of it was interviewing them over the next 5 years. And then, then they decided I don't know how they got this from their 5-year study, but that a reoccurrence would be anywhere from 96 days to 10 years. So
in a 5-year study that they decided
that kind of cracked me up, but that was actually from a pretty reputable place. So that's what I found about shingles is there's a lot of contradictory studies.
I would seriously hope that if you're herbal in any way and you do shingles, that you learn to pick up on my body was stressed out. These were the things that I did that led me to this, and you don't do it again.
And I'm hoping I don't do shingles again, but I've been sick more times in the last year than I've been in the last 10. So perhaps I should take my own advice or Valerie's advice or something.
So that is an interesting thing. She has done shingles. I have never done shingles. I think I've gotten pretty close once in a while. I do have herpes simplex that lives in my lip and occasionally pops out and gives me some grief. And so I have worried about doing shingles, but I've never actually done it. So this was enough to scare me into staying on my things. But I do the herpes outbreaks when I get my hormones get really messed up or I get extremely stressed out. And winter seems to be worse for me.
For some reason it is.
Here we go, right into winter, right? Anyway.
So a bout of shingles, I was told from every study I saw, may take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to run its course. Now, I certainly didn't go down for 2 weeks. I held really still for 2 days. And I should have the day before.
And you should have one more day too.
And I should have, yes. And I was tired and fatigued for another 4 or 5 days. But no, I came through it in much less than 2 weeks.
All right, let's talk about how shingles affects senior citizens.
I could do that. No, 60 or older. I got it. I got it. Okay. It says more extensive rashes, more severe nerve pain, wider spread blisters. Mine stayed on the side of my neck, one small place, one up behind my ear, and worried me that it was heading into my eye. Wasn't a real severe rash, and it's left a little bit of discoloring on one side of my neck, but very minor.
They also say that senior citizens are more likely to develop shingles.
And they're more likely to get pneumonia and brain inflammation and all these other nasty things that come along with shingles. Yeah. And I've certainly seen that in older people here in our community. So,
okay, now let's talk about shingles in pregnancy. And the good news is that shingles in pregnancy is extremely rare. It doesn't happen.
And see, that surprises me because during pregnancy, in order for a foreign thing other than you to grow in your body, your immune system actually has to do some downshifting. But statistically, this is very true. Shingles in pregnancy is extremely rare.
Yep.
But if you're pregnant and you've never had chickenpox, you should probably avoid exposure to anyone with chickenpox or that. Absolutely, yes.
If you're pregnant, you shouldn't be around anybody that's sick.
Please stay away
especially with shingles or chickenpox. I don't care if you've had it or not.
But please bear in mind that the early trimester of a pregnancy is when the baby's nervous system is developing. And shingles attacks the nervous system. So please, if you're pregnant, baby yourself and that baby for that first 3 months. Sad part is a lot of women don't realize they're pregnant till that first 3 months is half over.
That's true.
Take care of yourself all the time. There you go.
I love this comment. Kelly Donnelly says that she loves spending time with us. And
I caught that too. How fun. Thank you.
I like comments like that. We appreciate comments.
We love it.
Okay. Shingles in pregnancy. So where does that put us? Shingles in children.
Shingles in children.
So children more typically do chickenpox than shingles. Shingles is not extremely common in children, but like we said, the same alternative things that you're going to use for shingles, you're going to use for chickenpox.
It's pretty rare in children and teens. The first case of shingles I ever saw was a young teenage boy who was in the play The King and I, and he was running around with his chest all covered with makeup. He had shingle sores that they were covering in this grease paint. And here he was dancing all over the stage, and then afterward he would just collapse and die. I've never been so impressed by a young man as he did what he committed to do.
He had to finish it out.
But I got to wonder how many people smearing him with grease paint got exposed
to shingles. One thing that's interesting is if the mom had chickenpox while she was pregnant with the child, then the child is more likely to do shingles.
It's because it's gone into dormancy somewhere in the child's system. So
yeah, most of the statistics that have to do with shingles, we've gone into them quite a bit in the blog. We'll cover them really quickly, but if you want to know more about the statistics in shingles, you will want to refer to the blog. The main thing we want to draw your attention to is the fact that shingles is really, really dramatically on the rise.
1945 to 1949, less than 1 person in 1,000 experienced shingles. Between 2000 and 2007, just over 3 people. So still 3 people in 1,000.
3 times as many, though.
But nevertheless, now get this one. According to the Center for Disease Control, the number sits at 3 people per 100. Not per 1,000. So 3% of the people around you and yourself will do shingles in today's. I mean, somebody should be asking some serious questions. Why? Do you notice our curtain behind us? It's kind of a mess.
We could fix that. Do you like our wall? It helps with the sound the curtain does. So we try to keep
That's why we have
it bouncing off the curtain, bouncing off the wall sounds different. So. Anyway,
hits the senior population particularly hard. From 1992 to 2010, which is the only statistic I could find that I relied upon, people over 65, 39% rise in the number of shingles cases. So something is going on with our immune system.
And it's becoming a lot more prevalent. We do have a couple of theories, and they are covered in the blog.
And they are theories, and I put them there because I love theories all over the place. Yeah.
Is it this? Is it that? And some of them are theories that are by other doctors and other people that are studying this and trying to figure out why there is such a rise of shingles.
One doctor, roll me back there because I like this one. You betcha.
Okay.
This guy is an English doctor and epidemiologist. There you go. Says that he thinks being exposed to chickenpox as a child actually boosts the immune system, gives it the antibodies and things it needs to prevent or to keep shingles encapsulated or destroy the encapsulated pieces altogether. And his suggestion was that, the reason it's gone up is because parents are so paranoid about exposing their children to chickenpox. It was common when I was a child. Everybody did chickenpox.
Yeah, somebody had chickenpox. You took your kids over to play.
You did. You had a chickenpox party so that everybody could get it and
get it over with. Yeah, so, I didn't do chickenpox until I was about 12, and I remember being exposed several times,
all the way from 18-year-old Tony down to.
But we finally, we finally got them from my cousin.
Yep. Having an overnighter at grandma's.
None of my kids have ever had chickenpox.
Haven't they?
They've been exposed several times, but they have never done them. Matthew's 18.
It's called eating right.
Could be, but they've never done them. I've had several times my daughters come and go, so-and-so's kids, I was just babysitting, broke out chicken. I was like, okay, here we go. But we never have. Anyway,
well, I tell the story, and I think I might tell it here somewhere, and I will do it now. But sweet Aunt Donna decided that all you kids were deprived and started bringing 2 bags of Pepperidge Farms cookies and a gallon and a half of ice cream that summer. And it was that fall, that October, every one of you went down with chickenpox. Tara first, and the rest of you following her.
Well, all right behind her.
And I always wondered if there wasn't a bit of a connection to the sugar, because we didn't do much of it in those days.
That's interesting.
So the theory 2, we skipped theory 2.
I wasn't going to cover all the theories.
Oh, okay.
Read them.
All right. Well,
this is going to
number
really
2 is a suppressed immune system and having a chronic illness. People with chronic illnesses do have a higher percentage of shingles. So
and that's all on more of that as well.
Right.
Okay. And then theory 3 mostly talks about that's
theory 2 was the chickenpox vaccine, and I'm going to just kind of leave that to be.
and how that might be affecting
maybe
the rise
we'll
of
get into that a little bit later.
And then the 4th one is stress. We live a much higher stress-filled life than we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Stress is on the rise as well, and that could be contributing.
There might have been something to said to having to use a lantern light in the evening, so you didn't want to burn your pills, so you went to bed and got to sleep.
All right, let's talk about what the risk factors are of shingles.
And I love that one, being 60 years old or older. Got that.
That's not one you can really avoid, but having a weakened immune system
isn't that great.
Yeah. If you have a weakened immune system, you're definitely at a higher risk for shingles.
Steroids, anti-rejection medication after an organ transplant, and then a high amount of stress. I mean, that stress thing keeps coming up in every study.
Yep.
Learn to relax, learn to take care of yourself. So,
okay, so is shingles contagious?
Well, kind of. They claim the only way you can catch shingles is by exposing yourself to an open shingles lesion. So I would say probably not. Most of us would be pretty careful with that, I would think.
And shingles lesions are painful enough that you typically put something on them and then you bandage them, and so they're covered. So being around someone who has shingles isn't typically scary unless they've taken care of their shingle sores and not washed their hands.
Yeah, there is such a thing as shingles without a rash, and according to all the statistics, that should not be contagious. So, but I would be careful anyway.
That's right.
Now, here's just an interesting thing. There's a lot of theories out there that you get shingles because the chickenpox virus didn't fully expose itself. You didn't break out sufficiently, and so it went into dormancy. I was told that I never had chickenpox as a child. My dad did, and the stories were that I was 3 years old and crawled all over him and still didn't get chickenpox. Don't know. My mother, I can't even imagine my overzealous mother not noticing even if there'd been one on the roof of my mouth. She would have
caught it.
I don't know. But in spite of the fact that I've never had chickenpox, I got the shingles. And that made me wonder from some statistics I read if I didn't pick it up from that live virus vaccination that someone had. I could even name the person I knew that had it about 10 days before I came down with it. So.
I like this comment. And it says, I love getting information from you ladies. I might not need it now, but I'll have it when I need it. That made me think all of these lives are stored and all of the blogs are stored. You can actually access them from both our website and Butterfly Express's website under the information tab, and they're under Health Matters, and they're just alphabetized. So if you're ever doing something, you're like, I remember watching a live about that sometime, you can actually access it right there.
Or I can say to myself, I remember. Go back and look it up.
Right. We studied that. Didn't we do some research on that?
I did that.
We did. Yeah, and our new one needs to be bedwetting. We need to cover that one here shortly, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Just as it's on the brain there. All right, let's talk about the symptoms of shingles.
Usually they occur on only one part of the body. I was interested to note when I was researching this after I did shingles that a lot of early symptoms appear before the rash appears.
And most people don't realize.
And I'll tell you what, I could check off every one of those. We were in Salt Lake City with Valerie's family doing a
Lights on Temple Square
thing. And I felt awful. I finally, 3:00 in the afternoon, made my husband drag me home. The rash did not appear. Well, it started to appear a little bit that day, but the previous 2 or 3 days, I had been nearly every one of these symptoms.
And if
I just
didn't realize it quicker.
Oh, I could have got on it faster. And
yep.
So
let's talk about those early symptoms and exactly what they are. The very first one is just feeling unusually tired and fatigued. And unfortunately, that can be a symptom of so many things that you don't necessarily, I must be getting shingles.
Not feeling like your usual
But that
self.
one coupled with the rest of them, not
aching or spasming muscles, usually in the area in which the shingles rash. And I remember that. I wondered if my carotid artery, I took things for circulation. I worried about stroke because it was right there along that nerve and artery that runs right there.
I know one lady who has done shingles in the exact same spot about 3 or 4 times now.
Every time I'm running on the treadmill or something and I feel that muscle spasm, it's
You're
like,
I'm
pour everything down me.
So once you've done shingles, I think the likelihood is that you'll do it in the same area is
pretty high.
High. And that's the way herpes works too. I mean, every single outbreak I've ever had has been right. Oh, wrong side. Hot. It's right here.
Yeah, right there.
I forget the camera flips
the camera's
right
backwards.
There. And I've done it enough times that I almost have a scar. And right after I'll do one, it'll look like I get right on it with all the anti-scarring oils, and because I don't want a scar on my lip. I don't want people to know I do them. So
you tell the whole world on a blog. Yeah.
It's different than having somebody see them. As long as I never have to do a live when we're doing one. Put it out there recorded for everybody to see. Oh, I hate them.
Other symptoms: numbness, tingling, itching, unexplained burning, pain along that muscle group.
Headaches are part of this too.
And especially when it's on the neck or face. The headaches that I did, and I'm still doing. Not the headache, but still occasional vision disturbances. So it's still coming. I mean, I fought that. I hadn't done migraines in years. And I thought, what in the world is this? What?
Nausea and a fever.
I didn't do that. I did fever. Yeah. It does not appear until the rash erupts. So you don't even get any heads up. All you get is this achiness and this numbness and this tingling. You know?
Now, about 1 to 5 days after those original symptoms have appeared, that's when you finally start to see the rash and go, I know what this is.
It's usually on one side of the body or head.
Yeah. So, we thought about getting a picture to show you what shingles looks like, but if you Google shingles,
you get some nasty. We didn't do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
if you want to see what
they
shingles
itch and burn. Like, trust me, they are nasty. Okay.
They look awful.
They eventually scab over. Mine didn't really ever scab over because you kept plastering it with.
Yeah. There may be a subtle color change.
Yeah, that's what mine has done. There's just a subtle color change. I had typed it here that there was no scarring, and then I thought maybe you better go look closer, but there's just a little bit of discoloring there. So
okay, and then after the rash is gone, many people actually will continue to have fever, chills, the headaches. The fatigue doesn't go away when the rash goes away.
I still have the muscle spasms and the occasional headaches, and it's been months.
Yeah, it does some nerve damage that definitely needs some attention. So
shingles without a rash.
That happens. And so how would you know that you're doing shingles if you never get a rash?
It says it's not common, but it happens often enough to have its own name, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it to you.
Yeah, but it would be the exact same types of things that we're going to talk about that you would do for it. It would just be difficult to say that it's shingles if you never actually break out in a rash. But if you never actually break out in a rash and you're just doing all the herbal things.
But the sad thing about shingles without a rash is that the virus is attacking the nerve.
And you don't realize it.
And you may go, especially if it's attacking the nerves of the eye or, anything like that, it can have some serious side effects just because it doesn't get diagnosed and treated.
So if you do shingles without a rash, the typical symptoms would be sensitivity to touch a particular area, and there would be itchiness, especially in that one certain area, localized numbness,
headache, fatigue,
a lot of the same symptoms.
Pain that radiates outward from the spinal column. I found that an interesting one because even though I broke out in the rash, I definitely had that. I started sleeping with a pillow under my knees because my back was aching. There were several things that should have pointed to shingles had I done this research first instead of later.
But if you have all of these symptoms and you never break out in a rash, it does take a blood or saliva test to actually say that this is what this is. So, and a lot of times those tests are inconclusive.
Yeah.
All right. There are some more serious complications that go along with shingles.
These are very rare. We're not going to spend much time on them.
I scare you to death, but you do need to be aware of them. And they're a lot more scary for people over 60.
Yep. Much as 20% of people who've had shingles, the pain continues long after the rash, can last for years, off and on, and increased sensitivity along nerve bundles. It's nasty. Of course,
can affect
eye complications. People that I have worked with, one sweet little old neighbor lady, the herpes went right up next to the eye. But no, she had no vision disturbance. But I'll tell you what, she scared me. The doctor that we were working with, it was like, she's gonna go blind.
Yeah, and she did not. It can do significant damage to the cornea.
It can do significant damage in the ear too, and cause.
That's called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Yeah. When it causes problems in the ear. Runs along the cranial nerves.
That's what worried me because I had the symptoms of pain in the muscles of the neck, and it was right there along.
Can cause hearing loss.
Yep. And I did do some buzzing and things in my ears
Tinnitus,
as
hearing
part of
loss.
that. So, but it didn't. It's fine. So
Vertigo.
that did that. The whole room is spinning.
And even a decreased sense of taste, that is part of herpes affecting those nerves in the facial area.
Yep. So
you can even do some paralysis in the facial.
And slurring of speech. So yeah, that one's a nasty one when it's on your face or neck. So.
And if it's anywhere on your face or neck, it's going to affect the nerves no matter where it is, but particularly on those, I would say on nerve herbs long after it's passed.
I'm still taking nerve herbs. Yeah. A little paranoid. Why not? It helps me sleep. Why not?
Yeah, this would have been last Christmas that she did this. So, all right, brain or spinal cord inflammation. Yeah. That's another thing that can happen. And
encephalitis, the official term for inflammation of the brain.
Encephalitis or meningitis. And so swelling on the brain, we know that is a host of symptoms that can cause.
But the beginning of them are mild flu-like symptoms, fever and headache, and simple things like that. But
it grows into confusion and agitation, and then hallucinations,
seizures, paralysis, problems with speech. It can be nasty. So while these things are rare, don't play around with shingles.
If you get right on it. Shingles and then you start to do any of those, it's time to seek medical care.
You bet.
Don't mess around with that.
Don't mess around with that.
All right.
So we can skip all the symptoms. We know what the symptoms of pneumonia is, hepatitis, vasculopathy. That's what affects the eyes.
So we want to talk to you about some things that
I want to back up for just a minute to this vasculopathy and point out that if the shingles runs along those major blood supplies of the head, as mine did, it increases the risk for stroke for quite a while afterward. So the fact that I'm still taking all my stuff and have turned into an exercise freak is for a really good reason. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to mess around.
I do not want to mess around with stroke.
There are some things that are not, or there are alternative things that you can do to, how do I put it? To help with shingles and the discomfort that it causes. And there's a lot of things that they might actually prevent it or lessen the duration. And they're not necessarily, they don't fit into the herbal category. They don't fit into the essential oil category, and they don't fit into the homeopathic category. So we're going to talk about them first.
Okay.
The first one is rest. Duh.
And she's going to try not to say anything rude to her mother.
Don't run faster than you have strength. If you have a tendency to do shingles, or you've done shingles, or you think you might be doing shingles, take care of yourself. Rest. Slow down.
And she doesn't think I know how to do this, but I held absolutely still for 2 full days with shingles. And 2 days. And recently, this last week, my poor little Fitbit on my wrist, instead of its usual 17 to 20,000, hasn't even broke 4,000 for the last 3 days. Have a little bit of a head cold, and I thought, okay, but my version of rest is to work on my computer instead of run around like a mad rabbit. So.
Which is stressful at the moment. So
it is. Yes.
This is not resting. All right. A diet, the way that you eat, we can't stress that enough. But when you have been sick or you're getting sick, you really need to push the nutrition. You've got to feed the body with the things and not just rely on the herbs to do that. Yeah, the herbs are great. They're a supplement to a good diet. You need a vitamin,
proteins and amino acids and good fats and, the B vitamins that are in grains. You just really
eat the rainbow,
need to cover all that.
And your fruits.
Don't get into a rut of eating the same things every day. I think that's part of what I did because I had lost quite a bit of weight and I had some foods I really liked and they were low calorie. And I was pretty much eating the same thing every day and not getting certain
Got to
colors.
Get your reds and your greens and your purples and your yellows. Eat the rainbow.
I wasn't doing that, not even sort of at the time. So I probably deserved it.
Yeah, and we all need carbohydrates. And I think she kind of shorted herself on those
too. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think I'd know better, wouldn't you?
There is, I don't know what's arginine is a
theory.
Is it amino acid?
It's an amino acid.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
And it's essential to the body. And there's some studies out there, which I don't give much stock to, but I thought I'd tell you about them, that say arginine contributes to shingles. But what I show you here in just a minute or tell you what foods arginine is found in, it's going to kind of surprise you. My theory on this is that it is the man-made pill sort of arginine that might be the problem because it's found in things like apricots and mangoes and avocados and
dried apricots,
tomatoes and pears and peppers and nuts and potatoes.
It's in chocolate, Yeah. I don't think that the arginine we consume is a problem, but the
No, I was
man-made stuff
definitely
is.
eating all those. I mean, I love avocados and I couldn't eat them as a child, so I
I
tend
live
to
on potatoes and
pick out all of them
chocolate.
now. So anyway, that's my theory is that like so many things, it's the man-made laboratory produced version that causes these problems.
Yep.
Just like vitamin E, they claim, it'll increase your bleeding. And no, vitamin E, the natural stuff, does not increase bleeding.
Yep.
But that's what they'll tell you. So,
all right, we typically start with essential oils, but we are going to talk about herbal remedies, and that is
I found them so helpful.
Well, and because they push that nutrition, and nutrition is so key to getting through shingles quickly, getting through shingles at all.
So tell them about your HP tincture that you made years ago.
HP tincture is it stood for herpes for me, because I kept doing these stupid things on my lip, and I got to the point where I was doing them every 28 days with my period. That's the one thing I could say about my period, is it was consistent every 28 days. But the stupid thing on my lip, I would break out with it, and it would last as much as 17 days. It was typically about 11. That was the typical, but it would last as much as 17. And then, that's, like 11 days from doing it again. I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I pulled out every herbal book I could think of, and I looked up everything I possibly could. And I made this tincture HP, and I made it in a glycerin, because some of the herbs that were in it pulled better in glycerin. Plus, I could have it done faster, and I kind of wanted it right now. And then I started taking it in copious amounts. And I think I went about 4 months the first time. And then I got to where I went as much as a year without doing one. Pregnancy kind of messed that up when I had my next kid. I did a couple.
And we were paying attention to your hormones a bit then too, and dealing with those too.
Trying to balance them out. And yeah. And so for me, the HP has been an amazing thing. Another thing, and I don't think it's in the blog, but I also put together an oil that would kill it on the face.
That's right.
It burned. It's simplicity.
Simplicity. That's right.
And it burns like no other. But I went to the grocery store, and they actually, I was desperate. They had a little drug thing in a little teeny tiny tube that you could put on that was supposed to shorten the duration of them. And it was like $17 for this little itty tiny bitty tube. And I thought, I could do that with an essential oil. So I put together that blend, and it burns like no other. And for a long time, I thought, well, maybe I'd be better off with a little tube of stuff. And then I was talking to somebody who uses the little tube of stuff, and said, oh, that stuff burns. Well, I'm no worse off than you are. But I've had it cut it down. When I did do my first outbreak after doing the tinctures and the oils, it was a little discouraging. It had been 4 months, but I was just hoping to never do it again. and a little unreal expectations. But it did cut it down. It went away in 3 days. So, but I started taking the HP. I'd been taking it, but I tripled my dosage.
I bet you gotten kind of careless.
And I had gotten a little careless. I wasn't doing as much. I don't take it on a daily basis now. I take it if I start to feel stressed. If my lip tingles even the slightest little bit, I get on it. And about half the time it's enough to stop it, and I don't do it at all. But then when I do, it's short.
Yeah,
Typically,
they're minor.
We do these lives every 2 weeks, and I've never yet hit it to where I couldn't have it cleared up enough that I didn't feel like anybody'd see it in the live. So keep them short.
All right. Yeah. The next herb that we're going to talk about is St. John's wort. It has got to be the greatest strengthener of the nervous system that I know.
I should have told them what was in HP, because it probably has several of these herbs we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But you go ahead and tell about
okay.
About St. John's, and I'll look it up.
St. John's wort, one of the things, it appears to act against encapsulated viruses when lying dormant. So the fact that you take it between, you may prevent yourself from getting it just by using St. John's wort and such things all the time as for things that you need. Tested against viruses like HIV and hepatitis B and C, and there are some pretty amazing studies out there that show that extracts of St. John's wort work against these sort of things. So not only are you strengthening your nerve, but you're fighting the virus. So since antiquity, you can find papers on St. John's wort for this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. The next herb is echinacea, and echinacea actually is in the HP. St. John's is not.
And we are not going to cover echinacea.
You couldn't cover echinacea unless we did an entire live on it, because it's such an amazing herb.
But I do want to refer you to a book, Michael Murray. Find me the book. It's I can't even remember the name of the book. It's out here somewhere. The Healing Power of Herbs. There it is. Yes. Michael Murray. He's a scientist, garden herbalist. And he explains the difference between the various types of echinacea, why echinacea. It's an amazing blog. And I've summed it up for you a little bit here in the blog if you're curious. echinacea acts to prevent things as almost as much as anything else. I think going into cold season, we should all just live on echinacea tea and forget the thing.
Kyoko has asked an interesting question. She says, does HP only help with the symptoms, or does it help the body to clear the virus entirely? And the interesting thing about viruses, and particularly the herpes virus or
is this nasty virus, way they encapsulate?
Yeah, it hides in the nerves, and it hides particularly in the damaged parts of the nerves, or it damages the nerves in this kind of chicken and egg situation. It hides
along the jawline and in the big nerve bundle on just above the sacrum.
So when you're taking the herbs, the body has the nutrition that it needs to in order for those nerves to get even more run down and to cause another outbreak. But unless there's a specific reason for the body to go in and say, okay, we've encapsulated this thing and it's not a problem anymore, let's take it out and throw it away anyway. It's not going to. It deals with other things that are online that are more a problem right now, and it puts that nutrition to better use because this is encapsulated and it's not a problem. But when the body gets run down and it doesn't have enough nutrition to go around, that virus goes, oh, I bet I could. This is my chance.
I bet I could break loose now.
And
I will tell you though, if you are super healthy, I have not been sick much in years. If you are super healthy, and you give yourself additional nutrition, the body might just as well say, oh, goody, let's get rid of this little encapsulated guy.
Eventually it will do that.
And you will do a short outbreak. And I've wondered if that's why my outbreak was so short, because I was in pretty good health at the time.
And that's why the body decided, hey, you know what, this has been hiding here for 40 years. Let's get rid of it.
Let's pull this thing up here and go around to it. I don't know. Because like there were things, I wasn't eating well, but I was feeling good. And it was super, super healthy.
So yeah, it's hard to say, but taking it may give the body the chance to get rid of it, but it definitely shortens it if you do it. And a lot of times, in my case, it has kept me from doing them. I no longer do them once a month, thankfully. I'm lucky if I do one a year, and I haven't done one for quite a while, but I am more likely to do them coming into winter. And it's September, right? It's the end of September. So yeah, stress is definitely what gets me, and I have my share of that at the moment. So, but I'm trying really hard not to do one this winter. I don't want to.
Let's not do those. Those are nasty. I don't even like to see them.
Some of the other things that are in the HP. So it has olive leaf, it has echinacea, has lavender and chamomile,
hyssop. Okay, that would be a good
oat straw, and slippery elm. And we're not going to cover all of those in herbal form today, but we did want to talk a little bit about the healing power of herbs and how.
Please get that book. He doesn't cover a lot of herbs, but man, he covers them from a scientific viewpoint, and it is amazing.
It's an herbal book to have if you're studying.
He talks about the immunostimulating properties of echinacea. Echinacea is an amazing herb, and it grows in our Mountain West area. One of them, the purpurea var.
Definitely one that you want to recognize. It's a purple cone flower. You'll see it in people's flower beds in its hybridized version a lot. But out in the wild, it's an absolutely beautiful herb.
I want to just read you this one part. Echinacea exerts many non-specific effects on the immune system. And he talks about things like inulin, which activates certain parts of the immune system that give us trouble. And it's just, he does an incredible job of explaining to you this herb and several other ones too. So
yeah. Diana Rock says, should you take it up to daily to begin with? When I started taking it, I had an active outbreak of herpes, and I was taking it about every 15 minutes.
We have that echinacea cold care tea, and I probably drink 2 cups of that a week all the time, just because I like teas. And I usually start doing it by this time of year because it's cold, and a good cup of hot tea is wonderful.
And echinacea is a good one. So, and then I kind of hit back to where after it had gone away and I was feeling better, I was doing it about twice a day. And then I backed it off, and I did it once a day for a couple of years.
You can do it in tincture form.
You can do it, yeah.
Just happen to like a cup of hot tea.
They do the HP as a tea form. And with the echinacea in it, you might decide that you like it better.
I think the hyssop,
it makes a good tea because of the hyssop is sweet in a tea. Lavender and chamomile are great for teas. The only thing that
slippery elm.
Yeah, slippery. None of them are going to be.
Drink it cold.
No, well, I drink tea cold because I forget to drink it warm. But
maybe there's not enough slippery in there, and it has in there to turn into egg white consistency.
For me, it's easier to do it as a glycerin, just faster. And I would say if you don't have an active outbreak, but you're prone to cold sore outbreaks or herpes outbreaks, or somebody around you just doing chicken pox or shingles, I take it once a day. I'd throw it in there. So we could go on about echinacea, but
yeah, we're rolling up pages of it here.
Yeah, it's in the blog. There's tons more information about it, or you can buy that book by Michael Murray, which we recommend anyway. So the next one is ginseng.
Ginseng, world famous traditional Chinese.
You've probably heard of
it. I think the main thing for ginseng, as far as shingles is concerned, is the results that it has on elderly persons. It's just like an energizer. It's like a tonic. Stress. It's just a great thing. So
if you are under great amounts of stress all the time, ginseng is.
I was drinking ginseng tea and taking the tincture, and I definitely did the ginseng thing. And I think that's why my energy came back so quickly.
Yeah. So. Okay, the next one is ashwagandha.
That's another Chinese herb.
I think the Chinese definitely
have some Indian ginseng because it grows in India. So.
Yeah, it's another form of ginseng, but it is absolutely incredible for strengthening and rebuilding the nervous system.
Improves neuron impulses.
So. Yeah, those are the nerves are what take a hit when we are stressed.
And it also increases hemoglobin levels. So this is a wonderful herb for anemia. So if you were already run down and tired when the shingles got you, this is a very nice way to bring yourself back up.
It also prevents the depletion of vitamin C.
When the body's under stress. So, ashwagandha, another good herb. I don't remember if I took that one or not.
I don't know. Astragalus. This one contains antioxidants which protect against cell damage.
It's a lot like
nerve damage. Yep, another really good herb. Milk thistle is another one, and I know you were taking this one. I don't know how much or how long you took it.
Well, the reason I took milk thistle is because it binds toxins in the liver, and shingles has a nasty reputation for doing liver damage, and I just didn't want to go back to doing allergies and things that I beat years ago. So,
interestingly enough, milk thistle is also used for chronic bowel issues.
It is Sillibar, and it's used to treat alcoholic liver diseases, hepatitis, any toxin-related liver disease, and it's very excellent for the chronic bowel issues. So. Anyway, seeds are thought to be better than leaves alone. So I don't know. Silymarin is not water soluble. So milk thistle is not one that's any good as a tea. So
it's better as a tea.
Cold and alcohol or glycerin.
I don't know why, but my hair is driving me nuts today. Okay, red clover is another herb. And this one is a blood cleansing herb. And it
strengthens the immune system. Besides, I like it better in the RC formula than any other way because it's got other things in there that are great too. But
yeah, I take the RC anytime.
I drink RC when I have this.
I can't imagine a shingles without it.
I drink RC all the time anyway. I just like the stuff.
And then cayenne. Cayenne is a great herb just because it increases circulation, and where blood flows and energy flows, then healing follows. And so increasing that circulation when you're doing shingles, if you can handle cayenne, some people can't, it's too hot or they just can't. If you can handle cayenne, that's a great herb to add to.
Give me Jethro Gloss's quote.
Jethro Gloss's quote.
Remember what he said. Oh, he was talking about, no article that produces so powerful an impression. Yeah, he was fond of cayenne.
Yeah.
Cayenne, high in zinc, by the way.
I was going to tell you to start taking. I'd rather take zinc than cayenne. I'm not a fan of hot. I like Mexican food, but I can't handle it if it gets too hot. But zinc is essential to balancing hormones.
But the cayenne has vitamin A and C and rutin, which strengthens arteries and veins, and iron and calcium and potassium, and just do your herbs because I put a little cayenne in everything.
Well, and she has a formula that she makes called HVC, which is honey, vinegar, and cayenne. And vinegar helps your body to be more acidic.
But Valerie hates vinegar.
Eat too much chocolate. But I've actually been chocolate free here for a couple of days.
Wow. Okay.
I'm addicted to my chocolate, but I think I've been doing better with my B vitamins. I've been eating more
grains and things, so you're not craving the chocolate.
Not craving chocolate, and I've been able to leave it alone. So anyway, interesting. I forgot where my train of thought was, but anyway, the HVC. The honey makes it taste really sweet and coats the throat. The cayenne, it is just the cayenne tincture. And the nice thing about the HVC is it can be made to suit. So you use a tablespoon of honey, you use a tablespoon of vinegar, you got your warm water, and you can do a couple drops of cayenne.
5 drops, or you can throw 20 in like Sharon used to do.
I just take a couple. I got one daughter who'll do about twice what I do, and she's really proud of that fact. And then my husband walks in and does about 4 times what she's doing.
Yeah, I do typically 12 to 15 drops.
Shuts her right up. So,
all right, moving on to lysine.
That recipe for HVC can be found under information under Herbal Remedies and Recipes. HVC, but you can just make it your way.
Oh, I could talk about HVC for a whole blog too.
That's true. Yeah, but that's how, if I'm going to take cayenne, that's how I'm going to take it. So, yes, I'll go back to drinking HVC to make my mommy happy.
Yep. I can't believe you ever drink anything with vinegar in it. That's amazing.
Do. I actually drink vinegar sometimes by itself.
It's amazing to me.
But only the Bragg's. Bragg's taste much better. Yes, I like Bragg's vinegar way better than the other nasty stuff. All right. Lysine. And lysine this is something that I take in the winter. And if I do any type of, maybe I'm going to break out on my little poor lip, I am for sure taking my Lysine. And in the winter, I definitely do it. I don't know why Lysine helps me, so I'm going to.
But what you did for me was you broke some capsules open and stirred it into the miracle salve, and that's what I was putting on the rash. And from that minute, man, they quit itching, they quit stinging, they started to clear. It was amazing.
Lysine is an amino acid, and it's related to arginine, which is interesting because they say arginine isn't good for shingles, but
they're saying that Lysine, if you have Lysine with your arginine, it prevents it. We started using Lysine when one of our kids got badly sunburned in an all-day swimming outing. And he just broke out in sores all over his lips. And the doctors told me that his insides looked about the same as his outsides. And I was recommended Lysine. And that was so helpful. And he's taken it off and on for the rest of his lifetime.
So I have a brother who also does these shingles things. And he told me years and years ago when I was doing one, I've been out helping him roof a shed and I've been in the sun too much. And he goes, the problem is that you're not using chapstick. And that when you don't use chapstick, you lick your lips, and that actually introduces, if you have like a crack from the sun, if your lips get dry enough that they crack, you introduce that virus through your saliva, and that's when, and you do one. And I have been conscientious of that ever since he told me that. And sure enough, I get working out in the sun and I don't have any chapstick, and I'll try not to, because I know that if I do,
you're gonna
I'm gonna break that. And he's been right.
This is the same sun, by the way, that got sunburned, that lives on the Lysine. Yes, during the summer he just lives on this.
He lives on it. I think he takes it all the time. I
think he does.
I just do it in the winter, but I think he does it all the time. And he also told me that Carmex, for some reason, it just feeds it.
It feeds the virus, huh?
I threw in my Carmex and bought a cheap, crappy chapstick.
Anyway, do remember, if you do shingles, Lysine, put it in a miracle salve, put it in whatever you've got, and apply that to your. We just used the powdered capsules, broke open in the salve. It was amazing. Yep. Yeah.
And
I
miracle
also swallowed it as much Lysine as I could get. So.
Miracle salve is amazing for helping to heal them and prevent some of the scarring. So, all right, our favorite part.
We made it to essential oils. There's your simplicity.
And we already talked about the simplicity, which I use directly on the sore, and sure enough, burns like no other.
I would suggest putting it in a couple of drops in a bathtub, putting it in something to soak your feet,
diffuse it out in the air to kill it
everywhere through your system as fast as you could,
and diffuse it out in the air to prevent the spread.
And then deliverance alternately with life force. It's described in Deer book, in the oil book somewhere.
And that is, you're building the immune system, you're killing the virus.
Deliverance on the thymus area at night, deliverance on the feet, and then reverse them in the morning. It's a pretty fast way to beat anything that you're coming down with. So,
Undone is another one we really want to talk about, and that's because it's a tremendous healer, especially where scar tissue is concerned. It helps to prevent it from forming. So while you're doing a shingles outbreak, as you're getting to the end of it, you can start adding it to your miracle salve to prevent that scarring, and then even long after it's gone,
I did that.
If it does leave a scar, you can continue to do it.
It'll replicate. The new cells will grow by the old original pattern and not by the scarred pattern, which is important, because that's what we do. A scar, we shed all of our skin, so why should a scar stay there? It's because the baby cells being born are replicating the mommy cell, and you need to rewind them back to the previous pattern.
Interestingly enough, vetiver is one of the key ingredients in Undone, and vetiver stinks. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Yes, but Ginny and I did good making Undone.
And you don't smell it. So Undone is a great way to get the benefits of vetiver, and vetiver is one of those, it's physically, it's mentally and spiritually, emotionally and psychologically grounding. And
your dad's putting it along the sides of his eyes. We're still trying to heal those eyes from that accident.
My dad was in a car accident.
We've tried everything to convince the body that it wants Undone instead of straight vetiver.
And he ripped the retina.
Retina, there you go.
Gosh, I was trying to call it cornea, but I knew that wasn't right. He's ripped that retina, and he's had
cataracts, impact cataracts. He's had
surgeries to remove those. He's had a rough.
But anyway, it wants vetiver along those nerves, so he runs around smelling like vetiver. Ooh, yuck.
So vetiver is an absolutely amazing.
It won't go for Undone. I don't know why.
But Undone is typically the way that I will use vetiver, because it just smells better. Another one that you'll want with shingles is deeper, and that's because it's penetrating, and it's a very anti-inflammatory oil.
Deeper I've used deepers with shingles patients for years, and man, that helped the nerve bundle along my neck.
The tissues and the nerves. Yeah.
Excellent for that.
And that one's available in a rub too, which makes it easy and convenient. But I would keep the rub far away from any of the actual open parts because it's got menthol in it and it will sting.
Oh, that would burn, wouldn't it? Oh, yuck.
But around, I mean, just to rub it on aching legs or anything else that's hurting because of the shingles.
Intensity has some capsicum stuff. You're going to have to keep that away from the open sores too, or that's going to burn.
And camphor, but it's absolutely amazing for inflammatory things and for helping muscles relax and dealing with.
And I love it. I use intensity all the time, but I prefer the deeper where that old shingles mess is going on. So
yeah. Pain is another one, and they can actually be layered. You can layer pain with deeper, with intensity.
Think of things like warm down and Tendicare if the muscles are spasming as a result of the nerve damage, because that will help the muscle.
Quiet essence is
valerian root is the key to this one. That will calm nerves.
It will calm nerves like nothing else, and it hits a lot of the emotional. Shingles is no fun from an emotional standpoint.
Quiet essence has lavender and orange sweet and St. John's wort, so it's probably the best nerve calming blend in the butterfly line.
So what would you do with it? You could just diffuse it for the emotional benefits, but you could actually put it in your miracle sour. You could put it in a carrier oil, and you could apply it around the.
Have somebody rub the bottoms of your feet with it.
So if you broke out, say you broke out right here, you'd put it everywhere around it, not necessarily in it if you could avoid it, but around it.
If it's on your face, I would hit that nerve bundle in the jaw line real well. Yeah. If it's on the abdomen, I'd hit the nerve bundle on the back of the spine.
Yeah.
Just playing it.
Tendicare, because it helps build
tendons
and nerves, and it's an anti-inflammatory. It's also an antispasmodic. So
analgesic, just plain cuts the pain.
Yeah. And why are we giving you so many instead of just telling you this one or this one or this one? Because we want you to be able to use something that you have already. I mean, you might decide to order something different, but when you refer back to this blog or this live, and you're thinking, okay, what do I have? I think I might be doing this. What can I use? We want to give you enough that hopefully you have one of them or two.
I love that. You know, when people call with a question, my first question used to be when I answered phones was, what do you have? Rather than, well, here's what you should buy. Because by the time we ship it to you, you're a few hours behind already. So
it's too late.
My first question is, what do you have? So she's right. That's why I get so carried away.
That's why there's so many. That's better. Okay, so Melissa, Melissa is a pretty expensive oil, but it is the most powerful antiviral essential oil ever.
Found a good source at a reasonable price.
And so Melissa is one of those that you should have a small bottle of for emergencies tucked away, and I would call Shingles one of those emergencies.
I remember that first time we got Melissa, that friend that sent us 6 drops to use.
Yeah,
that's all she would give us because it was so expensive. University of Munich reported a complete remission of herpes simplex lesions, like Valerie does,
cold sores,
using Melissa oil. So besides its delightful smelling.
Yep. So, and there's a couple different Melissas that Butterfly has. There's a Melissa blend. That's not what we're talking about.
No.
There's a pure Melissa and there's a Melissa rectified. And I think either of those would be fine. The pure is by far and way more expensive. It's the first distillation, whereas the rectified is the second.
I would keep if I had a tendency, I have a small sample bottle of pure Melissa.
Pure. It's not horribly outrageous, but
it
it's
only
definitely
takes a drop or 2 or 3 at a time. It's a very potent oil. So.
And if you can do that, that would be a great thing to do. All right. Geranium. This one has a long-standing reputation for healing single sores. And geranium, I'm not a real big fan of the smell. It's very floral. I don't know.
I was so allergic to geranium as a child, even though I'm not anymore, and the oil doesn't bother me. It's just not my first reach.
Going to reach for. But it does have a reputation for it, and it is cheap.
And it discharges toxins and debris from the liver, so it's an excellent.
It's great for regenerating those damaged nerves.
I'm not a floral oil person either.
No. So we might be more likely to grab Ravensara. And Ravensara is one of my favorite oils for several other things, including respiratory things. So this would probably be one I'd be more likely to grab. It gets in there, it kills the critters. And then it supports the kidneys and the lymphatic system to help get rid of those little dead bodies.
Yeah. Tamanu is the carrier. That's because it's one of the greatest things for helping heal scarring and rebuild things.
Tamanu, though, is kind of gritty. People don't recognize it. They don't realize that when they buy it, and a lot of times they're not happy with their Tamanu carrier oil because it's a little gritty. But for shingles, I think I live with the gritty.
I did.
I used it when I was pregnant this last time, trying to prevent more Stretch marks. Baby number 6. I already have a
7
few,
babies and not a single stretch mark. I must have ate better than you did or something.
There's a given. Well, and I'm just short. This
is true.
I get so much bigger than people. It's not fair. I've got a friend who's about to have a baby, and she looks at me like I'm about 4 months.
You are built short, right?
I get so big when I'm pregnant. I know every woman thinks that, but I really do.
She really does. Trust me.
All right. So Tamin is by far and away
thick and dark in color, so it's not
gritty.
It's not a carrier you're going to use all the time. But
yeah, and if you really can't take the grittiness of Tamin, calendula is another good
one. So
one for healing
it's clear
skin rashes.
And pleasant. So
yep, that's a nice one for that. So
all right, we're going to spend the last few minutes on homeopathics because I personally don't believe you can beat shingles decently without homeopathy. I just don't know why you'd even want to try. So.
and just for information's sake, if you go to the information tab on the website under homeopathy, there is now a tab, a basic simple synopsis of what homeopathy is.
Oh, really? How nice.
You helped write it.
I know, but that, was 10 things I wrote ago. So.
And it also kind of goes into dosage a little bit because a lot of people are like, okay, so I've got it. What do I do with it? It does cover that. And so we don't have time to cover that in every blog. We're going to mostly focus on the remedies and what they do, but you could refer to that for that information.
Okay. So
homeopathy.
Well, sit down. There's only 1 or 2 that come into mind on top of my head.
Yeah. So really quickly, just want to cover that when you choose a homeopathic, you need to have those symptoms. And so you do need to read a little bit about the remedies. So we're going to mostly be talking about
but this one, Mercurius, either Vivis or Solubilis, I don't care which one, is pretty much, if you have shingles, you probably have the symptoms of this one.
Yep.
But one of the keys of Mercurius is human thermometers. They're made worse by both hot and cold. And as you go into shingles, you'll find this accentuated. I remember that day in Salt Lake, I was so hot in the buildings and so cold outside, and I'm typically not like that at all.
Come in and out with no problem. The rest of the minute we stepped in the door, she had to have her coat off. And the second we went outside, she had to have her coat on. The rest of us were wandering around a little bit here and there. And
then intense emotions erupting. I'm a pretty mellow person usually, but man, week before shingles, I think some of my employees would like to have hung me, and Valerie kind of grounded me to my office. So constantly changing their minds. I couldn't have made a decision to save
very
my soul.
Restless.
So, forgetful, memory things, So
that's Mercurius.
And Mercurius has been effective for a lot of people against shingles.
Yep, it's one of the most common remedies used for shingles. It's polycrest.
Yep, and Bruce toxidendron is the next one, and that's because it is a nerve thing. And this one is particularly effective after the shingles if you have any of that lingering nerve stuff.
And if you are one of those poor people who've done chronic shingles, bout after bout after bout,
or shingles that more of a face and head and eye thing. So
yeah, blisters, especially those that concentrate around the mouth. So that makes
this one is any painful affliction of the nerves. So it's just it's a nerve sciatic. This is an excellent one for sciatic pain. So
yeah, usually better from heat. People who really, really don't like
ranunculus bulbosus, itching. This is to help the itching, but I didn't really use this one much after you gave me the Lysine
because you weren't itching anymore.
So.
One of the keys to this one is worse from having to move.
Yep. So
one of those people
pains in the stomach, nausea. I wasn't doing any of that kind of thing. So I
just the itching. Arsenicum album, and this is one that everybody ought to have.
You ought to have, yeah. If you think you're getting anything, you should take this one.
Yeah, this one is the flu. Anytime anybody gets sick, might be food poisoning, might be the
migraine,
flu.
headaches. This is so good for so many things.
So that, if you don't have any other homeopathics, you should have this one.
The shingles rash around the ears, when mine started climbing up behind my ear, man, I went straight for the arsenicum. So. Yeah. Total prostration. That's called me holding still.
That's my mom. Me holding still. We knew it was bad when they got to that point. Okay. Worse at night is another symptom of that one. Worse for cold or damp. So, all right. Iris.
Versicolor. So
this is actually made from the herpes zoster. So.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
It's made from the iris, actually. It's just very specific for shingles.
The herpes zoster. Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Gastric and digestive issues. So that was different than what I had. So
and this one is particular if the itching gets worse at night. With shingles, you just itch all the time. But if it gets worse at night, then you think they're
Think this
homeopathic
one.
for that.
Yeah. Eruptions on the scalp, up in the hair, tearing pains along the joints. It's just, this is very specific, but if this fits your description, this is the one to reach for. So,
yeah, eruptions on the scalp. I don't think I've ever actually heard of any good shingles on the scalp.
It's very rare. The
face,
one
the
lady
back,
out in Oxford who did it
right on her scalp. That would be a
scalp and
horrible
then
place.
across over the top of and into the eye.
That would be so bad.
That's where hers was. So.
Okay.
Oh, neuralgic pains long
Mezerum.
after the shingles are gone.
I'm going to spell that one to him. Mezereum. Mezerum. And the reason we're spelling that one to you is it's not one that butterfly carries.
We should.
We should, and I'm not sure why they don't, but it's indicated a lot for shingles and has.
It's for the shingles rash that when it crusts over, it doesn't go away. There's still pus under the oozy sores. So that's the kind of shingles that leads to that Ramsay Hunt, the ear, the deafness.
Yeah.
So
the tendinitis and
definitely need to be getting this one.
Yeah. So. And it's the itching that gets worse after a bath. Yeah. And you can't stand to have bed covers on. Yeah, we do definitely need to
realize we didn't have that one.
We don't have that.
Okay.
And it's also, the shingles will cause you to be very irritable and angry at small, trifling things when you recognize that in yourself.
Another one that's worse at night.
Yeah.
Arsenicum is also a worse at night.
Okay.
Natrum
muriaticum.
So chronic repetitive
another
bouts
one for
of shingles.
The chronic repetitive bouts. But it's for people who's cold all over their body.
Anything that's a natrum, the emotionals of a natrum are always grief, dwelling on the past, never getting over the loss of a relationship or a loved one to death. So
yeah, and this one, vertigo, was one of the things. I have a question about making tinctures. Does raw honey pull like glycerin? No, nothing pulls like glycerin.
Although that great remedy of Dr. Christopher's is done in honey and glycerin. So.
Honey versus glycerin, that's a loaded question.
I don't know. That's the thing. We'll research it, Kyoko.
Yeah, we messed around with making tinctures in honey, but we never got real good at it because honey is so expensive.
And it's so sweet.
And it is so sweet.
So
but that's an interesting question. So yeah, thanks for stumping us.
That'll get us something to think about. Okay.
Okay, a couple of other suggestions real quick for shingles. Keep your rash covered. It's only contagious to someone who comes in contact with you. So
and if someone else is going to play, for heaven's sakes, get some gloves and have them peel them off between,
Yeah.
Don't be playing on your shingles rash. And
that's what's really bad for people who do it like on their back. They can't change it themselves. And so they have to expose someone else to it. Yeah. Make them wear gloves, make them wash.
Peel the gloves off and throw them away.
Inside out and chucked. Yeah. Wash your hands with essential oils. This is where the deliverance and those oils come in really handy because you can kill it on your hands and don't spread it. Sure. Avoid contact with people who haven't had the chicken pox, who have a weakened immune system, and pregnant people.
Yeah. Shall I leave them to read the vaccine stuff, or shall I tell them a little bit about what I learned about that?
I love this first sentence. She says, "I'm not going to indulge in a diatribe either for or against the shingles vaccine. I will confine myself to making you aware of a few things." And so she's just going to quote a few studies.
Zostafax is a live
vaccine.
And for me, that makes it dangerous to expose a pregnant woman to. But then I'm a midwife and I'm paranoid. Shingrix is the other choice, non-living vaccine made from a component of the virus. It's supposed to have 2 doses of that thing, 2 to 6 months apart.
It was approved by the FDA in 2006.
Being approved by the FDA does not impress me. Sorry.
But we've seen such an incredible climb since then. It just makes me wonder. Anyway, both vaccines are pretty dangerous and pretty scary.
So let's.
They're only approved for people over 50.
And I thought both vaccines are approved for adults 50 years and older. And yet I know lots of people running around getting, and I don't know, and I can't find anything that tells you. So.
You can't, because they're giving it to people younger than that. But when you read the packages,
if you read the packet, there it is. So possible vaccine reactions, of course, the usual redness, pain, tenderness, headache, muscle pain, fatigue, stomach pain, nausea.
These are all those things that were on that early symptoms list.
And some people develop a chickenpox-like rash after getting the shingles. The shingles and vaccine. The little insert says keep it covered because you can spread, to other people. I don't know. You have a 3% chance of getting shingles you have a much higher percent
It
chance
almost
of
makes it sound like
doing
they're
it.
giving you a
Well, they
watered
are.
down
That's
version
what
of
the
it.
live virus is for. So for me, I don't know. I guess I'm just used to dealing with tough things. I'd rather take a chance and deal with it as I got it, which I did, and it was simple. So I don't know.
do it on purpose. That's the kind of what it sounds like to me. If you do the vaccine, you're doing it on purpose.
And it's not, you may do it again anyway. So rare cases, a severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, that's not one I would be too considered about. So,
but it does happen from the shingles vaccine.
But I can promise you, because of some of the other things they talk about not doing the shingles vaccine if you've ever reacted to antibiotics like neomycin. Well, I'm extremely allergic to neomycin. So I can almost guarantee my bout of shingles was simpler than my reaction to the vaccine would have been. So no, there's no way I'm going to do that. So
yeah, and then if you're not familiar with the symptoms of anaphylaxis, you should be.
Yeah,
swelling to the face, includes mouth, eyes, and throat.
Low blood pressure, rapid weak pulse.
Dizziness, vertigo, fainting.
Yeah, don't do anaphylaxis. And if you do,
heartbeat.
for heaven's sakes, we had a young man in our community do this a year or 2 or 3 ago. I don't remember. And they're herbal people, but they had the good sense to load into a car and head for town
immediately.
And since it was 20 minutes away, they saved his life by not hesitating. So make yourself familiar with the signs of anaphylaxis.
So you should definitely avoid the vaccine if
you've ever had
an allergic reaction
to gelatin, the antibiotic neomycin, or any component of the shingles vaccine. This one cracked me up. I spent a week trying to find out what was in the shingles vaccine so I could know if I'd ever reacted to any component of it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a list of what's in the shingles vaccine. So how you would know if you had ever reacted to a component of the vaccine.
Oh. They also tell you to avoid the vaccine if you're taking any immune suppressing drugs or even steroids.
Such as steroids.
If you
Isn't
have
that
HIV
interesting
or
that
AIDS,
steroids suppress the immune system? How many of us even think about that? So
you don't. They also tell you to avoid it if you have cancer or anything that's affecting your lymphatic system and the bone marrow.
So have shingles currently. Do not get it if you already have shingles. That seems like a duh. You already have it. Let's give you a milder dose. I bet.
All right, let's talk about a little bit for a few minutes about how to survive shingles. Just a basic run-through from beginning to
how to survive shingles.
It seems like we hear about someone suffering
hit it hard
from shingles all the time. Every time we go out, we hear of a new person who has it, and some of them come and get herbal things, and some of them don't. It is one of the nastiest things to be called on to endure. It is very, very hard, but the faster you get on it,
a close friend of mine did shingles just a few weeks behind me, and she did nothing herbal, and it was amazing.
It was hard to watch.
She suffered, and it made me so sad to realize the things that could have helped her.
The thing with alternative remedies, with the exception of the homeopathics, if the minute that you think you might be having an outbreak, I might be headed for shingles, if you start on all the oils and all the herbs we've talked about, it's not going to hurt you.
If there's any numbness, tingling, itching, all of these things are nutrition. And no matter what you're coming down with, they're going to help.
It doesn't matter what it is. So you can't go wrong by adding more nutrition through herbs the minute you think you might be getting them. As soon as the symptoms become itching and rash-like, then you can add your homeopathics to it. But like taking Lysine because your body's stressed and something's going on, but you're not sure what it is.
A dose of arsenicum isn't going to hurt you if you got any of the symptoms of that one. So it may prevent everything else.
And the sooner that you hit it, the better, which makes it worth having a few of these things on hand. Learn to use them in other ways and for other things just so that you have them in case you ever started to do this. It's not a fun one.
And no, I do not intend to do a second round of shingles. No. End of story.
I don't ever intend to do the way.
Please, no.
Skip that one. So thanks for joining us as we talked about shingles. It's been fun and good to go back through and review. So we hope you've enjoyed it, and please share this broadcast. We appreciate you.